The end of the world is likely something you don't want to think of often. The idea of everything coming to an end can send chills up your spine. But what's more chilling is the fact that there are very real scenarios that could happen in our lifetime that could, in fact, end this world. The following are just those scenarios. Here are 10 signs the world might end. Number 10, our supervolcanoes are becoming active. There are volcanoes known as supervolcanoes, which, if they erupted, could end the world as we know it. Worse still, it could be just about to happen. The most famous supervolcano is underneath Yellowstone National Park. This volcano covers 3,884 kilometers squared and is still active. Some experts claim that we're actually due for an explosion in the short term, which would wipe out a large chunk of North America. But it's the Campi Flegrei supervolcano in Italy which is closest to exploding. Experts believe this supervolcano is at a critical state and getting ready to erupt. When it does, it has the potential to turn Europe into a desert of ash and create a volcanic winter around the world by blocking the sun from the sky with its gas and debris. The last eruption was 39,000 years ago, and it was beyond devastating. Number 9 is permafrost is melting. A layer of frozen soil called the permafrost is melting, and it may be about to unleash catastrophe. The permafrost covers 25% of the northern hemisphere, much of that in Russia. It has remained frozen for tens of thousands of years. When it originally froze, it acted like a huge freezer, preserving everything beneath it. That includes an estimated 1,400 gigatons of plant and animal matter. As the permafrost melts, this organic material will rot, releasing more than double the amount of carbon currently in our atmosphere. Carbon stores heat in the atmosphere, and so a runaway greenhouse effect could occur. Another terrifying thought is that microbes, dormant for thousands of years under the permafrost, are about to be released into the atmosphere. We may not have the immunity to stop them. Number 8 is the Doomsday Clock is ticking. The Doomsday Clock is a symbolic device which predicts how close humanity is to the end of the world. It's been maintained since 1947 by a group of scientists and is used to warn the world of how precarious our current global situation is. Based on the pressures and challenges the world faces, the clock time is set in relation to midnight, with the stroke of 12 symbolizing the end of the world. For example, in 1991, after the Cold War ended and the threat of nuclear war diminished, the clock was set to 17 minutes to midnight. That might sound like a lot, but it's the farthest from midnight the clock has ever been set. The closest the Doomsday Clock has ever been to midnight was in 1953 and in 2018. Just 2 minutes to midnight. So, the clock's owners believe that because of new conflicts around the world, we are closer than ever to the end. Number 7 is water levels are rising. With climate change already affecting millions around the world, it's the continuing rise in sea levels which could prove the most catastrophic. Recent studies suggest this trend is much worse than we previously thought. It's estimated that 275 million people currently live in areas that would be completely underwater in the coming decades. That doesn't even take into account the billions more who would severely be affected by swelling rivers, flash floods, and fatal mudslides. With storm surges wiping out inland areas as well, trillions need to be spent on flood defenses, but even that might not be enough. In the end, the world could see billions forced from their homes, looking for safe haven. If the water levels don't halt civilization as we know it, the resulting violent power struggles for what's left after the flood will. Number 6 is asteroids are around the corner. We've all seen the Hollywood blockbusters depicting gigantic chunks of rock from space hurtling towards our planet, threatening to wipe out life as we know it. But this danger isn't just science fiction, it's real. And what's worse is that those big chunks of rocks seem to be getting closer. In recent years, several massive asteroids have passed close to Earth, with an asteroid called 99942 Apophis at one time considered as a real threat. But it's not the asteroids or comets we know about which are the problem. It's the ones that we can't see. If a comet or asteroid hurtled towards us from behind the sun, we wouldn't know about it until it's too late. We'd only have months to come up with a plan to stop it. And if an asteroid or comet just a few miles wide did hit our planet, well, just ask the dinosaurs what happened. Number 5 is a pandemic is overdue. Medical experts say that it's only a matter of time until we have another flu pandemic, one which could kill us all. The history of recent pandemics makes for grim reading. The Spanish flu of 1918 killed more than 50 million people. Then, the Asian flu of 1959 killed 70,000 in the United States alone, and over 2 million worldwide. Just 10 years later, the Hong Kong flu of 1968 killed another million. While medical science has improved greatly since then, we're still vulnerable to another fatal flu pandemic, especially considering our reliance on air travel. A horrific flu would travel fast, and who knows how many would die before we find a cure. We're overdue for such a scenario, and we can only hope that science defeats influenza once and for all before it threatens our entire species again. Number 4 are the nukes are coming. In recent years, the danger that someone will use a nuclear device is greater than ever. One reason is that North Korea has become a rogue nuclear state. The North Korean government has continued to develop nuclear weapons, and the capacity to hit international targets has increased. In response, the US under Donald Trump has prioritized the modernizing of America's nuclear arsenal. That, in turn, may create a new arms race with Russia and China. Another reason nuclear weapons are now more dangerous than ever is that 50 nukes went missing during the collapse of the Soviet Union, and who knows who has them or what they do with them. All it takes is for one bomb to go off. This could provoke other nuclear powers to launch their weapons, and if enough missiles were fired, we might render the Earth uninhabitable, at least for those that are still alive. Number 3 is the advent of artificial intelligence. Science fiction writers have warned us for hundreds of years that the development of intelligent machines could prove fatal for the human race. Up until the last decade, the actual possibility of creating an artificially intelligent being has seemed like a pie in the sky, but with top engineers and scientists such as Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk now actively warning us against the oncoming age of robots, it's clear that the dangers are real. If we create something which is truly self-aware, then perhaps at some point it will see us as either a threat or as inconsequential. With our smartphones and computers becoming smarter by the year, it's possible that by the time we realize the machines are moving against us, that it'll already be too late. Consider that every time you want a more powerful computer. Number 2 is weaponized diseases exist. For decades, militaries have been weaponizing diseases. Should they escape, we may go extinct. Weaponized diseases have been around for a long time. In the military, their use is known as biological warfare and dates back as early as the 6th century BC. One of the first ever uses of them was by the Asteroids, who poisoned enemy water sources with a fungus. Another example includes the British Army allegedly using smallpox to wipe out an encampment of Native Americans in 1763. By the 1950s, weaponized anthrax and plagues have been developed by the US. While their use was banned in the Warsaw Pact of 1969, many of these diseases have simply been stored away, waiting to be used or accidentally released. If you think these fears are unfounded, then just look at the H1N1 flu of the 1970s. Most recent findings suggest that the disease was unleashed accidentally. And number 1 is the sun is acting strange. The sun has been acting odd in recent years, and the consequences could be disastrous for our planet. Our sun goes through an 11-year cycle where its energy output changes. At solar maximum, when the sun is most active, we see sunspots on the surface and then expect to see solar flares. These flares eject masses of high energy particles into the solar system. When one of these flares hits Earth, it can knock out satellites and power grids. But the last solar maximum was in 2014, so things should be calming down, but instead the sun has been getting more active. Solar flares have increased in activity and size towards the end of 2017. This could be a sign that the sun is getting ready to produce some of the biggest solar flares ever. If one of those hits Earth, it would render technology useless and send us back to the Dark Ages.